The cause of bovine spongiform encephalopathy, or BSE, more commonly known as mad cow disease, has not been definitively determined. A widely accepted theory is that BSE is caused by changes in the prion protein, PRP, found in highest concentrations in the plasma membrane of neurons. PRP can be converted to an infectious form via a rare conformational change. This process is believed to be mediated by an unknown protein, Protein X. This infectious form has the ability to convert properly folded molecules of PRP. The improperly folded PRP aggregate and form beta-amyloid plaques in the plasma membrane, eventually causing death.
Bovine spongiform encephalopathy, BSE, or mad cow disease. Bovine spongiform encephalopathy, BSE, is a fatal neurodegenerative disease affecting cattle which belongs to a family of diseases termed the transmissible spongiform encephalopathies, TSEs, affecting a range of species such as scrapie in sheep and variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in humans. Jacob disease, CJD, is a rare, degenerative, invariably fatal brain disorder. It affects about 1 person in every 1 million people per year worldwide. In the United States, there are about 200 cases per year. Testing for the presence of TSE disease in animals involves histological examination of hemiotoxin and eosin, stained paraffin-embedded tissue sections for evaluation of the neuropil and a method referred to as lesion, profilling in combination with assays to detect for the presence of PRPD. Hemiotoxin and eosin stains produce colors different tissue structures which would otherwise be transparent so that you can get a detailed view of the tissue. As its name suggests, H&E stains makes use of combination of 2 dyes, hemiotoxin and eosin. The 2 stains were independently introduced in 1865 and 1875, respectively by Boehmer and Fischer. The name bovine spongiform encephalopathy describes the characteristic sponge-like pathology observed in the brains of affected animals. BSE was first described as a TSE in 1986 and reached epidemic proportions within the national UK herd during the 1980s and 1990s. Human variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, VCJD, results from a food-borne transmission of prions from slaughtered cattle with classical bovine spongiform encephalopathy, CBSE. Atypical forms of BSE, which remain mostly asymptomatic in aging cattle, were recently identified at slaughterhouses throughout Europe and North America, raising a question about suspectability to the new prion strains. Current mad cow diagnosis lies solely in the detection of late-appearing prions. An acronym for hypothesized geneless misfolded proteins somehow claims to cause the disease. In 1996, the first key epidemiological study on bovine spongiform encephalitis, BSE, appeared in the renowned journal Nature. In that article, it was estimated that by the year 1996, some 550,000 cows with BSE had entered the food chain in Great Britain. That same year, the first report on a new form of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, variant VCJD, manifesting in young patients appeared. The number of new BSE infections in Great Britain peaked in 1991-1992 and has been steadily declining since. Characteristically, both spontaneous and familial CJDs start in middle life, generally in patients over 50 years of age. For decades, CJD was considered to be a non-infectious disease. Consequently, there were no precautionary measures to prevent possible infection of physicians and contact persons. If samples appear to infect animals, it is impossible to prove that prions are causative. Lamisa's study showed that 55% of mice injected with cattle BSE and who came down with the disease had no detectable prions. Still incredibly, prions are held as pre-existing TSE dogma, and Hino Dringer, who did pioneer work on their nature, candidly predicts it will turn out that prions concept is wrong. Many animals that die of spongiform TSEs never show evidence of misfolded proteins, and Dr. Frank Bastian of Tulane, an authority, thinks the disorder is caused by the bacterial DNA he found in this group of diseases. Neurotoxic, poisonous to nerve tissue as to the brain or spinal cord, potential for cow tuberculosis was shown in pre-1960 England, where 1/4 of all tuberculosis meningitis victims suffered from Mycobacterium bovis infection. Tuberculosis is an infectious disease of humans and animals caused by the tubercle bacillus and characterized by the formation of tubercules on the lungs and other tissues of the body. often developing long after the initial infection. Harley's study showed pathology identical to mad cow from systemic Mycobacterium bovis, a slow-growing aerobic bacterium and the causative agent of tuberculosis in cattle, causing a tuberculous spongiform encephalitis. As a part of the funeral ritual, people in Papua New Guinea ate brains of dead people. This resulted in the disease called Kuru, a central nervous system disorder, which is associated with mad cow disease in cows. Villagers of the Fore people in the Eastern Highlands, predominantly women and children, would show the symptoms. In the 1960s, European scientists began to study people with the disease called Kuru for the Fore word for shiver, and made two astonishing discoveries. First, that Kuru represented a new kind of infectious disease that caused the brain and nervous system to degenerate. Second, that Kuru probably resulted from people eating their dead relatives. At the height of Kuru, 1 out of 50 people in some Fore villages succumbed to the untreatable fatal disease. In humans, the earliest symptoms include depression, insomnia, and anxiety. The person may look withdrawn and in a confused state of mind. Significant changes in the personality and behavior of the individual will be observed. The person may also experience muscle spasms, involuntary muscle contractions that are very painful. As the condition of the patient worsens, he loses muscle control and coordination, and may also face problems with vision and memory.
Mad cow disease. What is it? Scientifically named bovine spongiform encephalopathy, it is a progressive neurological disease that affects a cow's nervous system. Once infected, the cow's behavior becomes erratic. Inability to walk, uncontrolled movements, and lower milk production. Incubation period can be months, even years. There's no known treatment and the disease is fatal. How do cows get infected? A cow gets infected with the disease if they eat diseased feed, which has abnormal proteins called prions, found in brains, spinal cords, and other parts. These prions cause the degeneration in the brain, giving it a spongy-like appearance.
New disease. The government decided that they would quarantine the whole Foray area. So in compensation, they decided to send in an Australian researcher, and so I got the job.
By the time Michael came, there was no more children.
So this was exposure to a culture that I had never imagined or could imagine.